Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning to everyone. Alhamdulillah, we have come to the final day of the 4th Annual Convention of the WAIBS 2016. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to begin today's agenda, we are very honored to have with us here Professor Dr. Khaliq Ahmad, President of International Council of Islamic Finance Educators and Dean of International Islamic University Malaysia, to give the keynote speech. To Professor Dr. Khaliq Ahmad, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Berbahagia Prof. Azizi, Secretary General of the WAIBS and board members of the WAIBS, respected Tuan Haji Zulkifli, Director of ICIFE, Director of ICIFE, our respectable guests from the Philippines, respectable and honorable host members and our Indonesian brothers and sisters, and not forgetting the valuable responses. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name, as you see there, I am Khaliq Ahmad. I'm Dean of the IIUM Institute of Islamic Microfinance, and I'm more here in affiliation with the ICIFE because currently I'm President of the International Council of Islamic Finance Educators. At the same time, ICIFE also got chapters in many parts of the world. Our Indonesian chapter is also there, and Alhamdulillah, the chapter chair, Dr. Henry Tanjung. Are you here, Dr. Henry? Where are you? Dr. Henry Tanjung. Yeah, he's sitting over there. He's the chapter chairman of the Indonesia, so he is representing here. So this is talking about my affiliation, and as being ICIFE as a partner institution, we really appreciate this friendship and relationship with the WAIBS. Thank you to Secretary Prof. Azizi for keeping us afloat. So as you look at topic today, this is my topic actually this was topic given to me, Islamic Finance and Economics for Development and Poverty Alleviation. If you look at the topic itself, this word is haunting everybody, and it's nothing to do with the only being Muslim or being Christian or being whosoever. It has multiple dimensions. It has actually crossed the boundaries. Socio-economic, religious, cultural divides. These are the factors that determines one's lifestyle actually. So we see if you see this, according to the World Development Indicators, if we take cutoff point of $1.5, there are about 970 million Muslims, non-Muslims, Christians, everybody. They are actually in this big population, and I tell you, with new developments taking place, especially in the Mediterranean, there are likely to be more than this figure, because this is 2014 figure. Now comes to the people who are close to our chest, Muslims. 322 million poor population of the world that earn income below this. They live in OIC countries. This is the CESRIC report. When we talk about OIC, we talk about Muslim majority countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, in this region. But there is a sizable population of minority Muslims in Philippines, in Thailand, in Singapore, and just other neighboring countries. This is the ASEAN, but when we expand the horizon, perhaps there will be more. So, for example, I would be focusing more for one of the OIC member countries, 21%, which got about 99 overpopulation, million, maybe 100 million we can say. 21% live below this poverty line. But if we raise the bar to 2, 60%. And this is not me, this is the established indicators. And this group is basically subjected to a lot of hardship and needs the attention. So perhaps we need a model. If you see, this may be a workable area to look at it. We need really measurement based on these who have technical knowledge and then have competencies, and perhaps we need, I'm taking it from Malaysian agencies, but in every country, when you have the Ministry of Religious Affairs and etc., then they come into the Sharia dimension, and these are the Islamic finance and development agenda to that. What we need to do is basically to requirement in terms of technical and expertise and financial resources for putting them into the real perspectives. So if we look at the Malaysian experience, then there have been certain measurement which has been developed by Malaysian agencies to look into these documentations, which is related to, is like a Islamic version of the ISOs. It also talks about the haram and halal lifestyles. So very important thing is, the lifestyle we need today is not only whether it is halal or haram, it also we need the halal and the tayyiban. So it is based on the ethics, morality and halal way of life, and also talking about the rights, human rights and responsibilities, and this includes the necessary services. So which talks about Islamic finance education, Islamic tourism, halal foods. Can you imagine what is the size of the Islamic tourism? What is competing with me? So, so is that it is? Anyway, so let me be a little louder. Okay, the idea here is, can you imagine that what would be the estimated expenses and cost when we include only Hajj and Umrah? Can you imagine? And by the way, in our part of the world, perhaps other portfolios and ministers are important. Perhaps because of law and order, we give importance to the Home Ministry. Because of the trade, we have more importance for the trade and industry, MITI and whatnot. But in Saudi, these ministries have no values. You know, the most important ministry and the rich one, the richest among the rest, is the Hajj and Awqaf. So who holds that portfolio? He controls the purse. Why? Because through Hajj, put the petroleum aside, the second largest actually source is through the management of the Hajj and Awqaf that they have there. So, of course, everybody needs the halal foods and the healthcare products, pharmacies, and Muslim-friendly hospitalities, cosmetics, halal branding and marketing, Islamic, and the facilities which are. So, all these can be actually considered and could be looked at it if we really have this to be achieved. All these things would remain dreams if people have still trapped into the poverty. So answer is that we have to go to look household levels. Today's those who we call them the Muslim rich countries, people are not rich. Perhaps the government, the rulers, and a very small section of the society, they are rich. But people at large, they are not. So how do we have yesterday, a day before, I was reading the newspaper and the report in Malaysia says is a very alarming stage of the household debts. Country is not maybe indebted, the country is not in red light, but the individuals, they have a trouble. So the solution lies here basically, this, to fight the poverty. And last time we used to call about absolute poverty. The absolute poverty perhaps in Malaysia, other places might be very minimal. And this data will differ from one to another. But what's new phenomena is urban poverty, relative poverties. People earn more than what I mentioned, the cutoff 1.25 or $2, but they remain in the big cities and they have problem for meeting the ends. So if you look at such situations, the United Nations is concerned. The report says that the microfinance is recognized by the United Nations in the United Nations Millennium Declaration. Our problem is, being a Muslim and looking for halal lifestyle, microfinance is all based on the riba system. And interest based. So what happens, the practicing Muslims, of course there are also Muslims, so-called I would call them. To them, no difference, so what? Whether it is a riba based or not, as long as it helps them. But I think safe to say that there are sizable Muslim population, they want to refrain from being this prohibited interest, which is considered to be injustices, exploitative in a nature. So they are looking that when it comes to, okay, this involves the riba, we would like to keep our hands off. And this is from IRTI reports. So what do we do? Yes, there is a need for microfinance, but there is a need this financing should be free from the interest base and riba. So we come up with Islamic Microfinance. I think a couple of years before it was a big news that Prof Yunus from Grameen Bank of Bangladesh, he come up with a scheme, but he dare not to touch the second part of it. Because he knows there are elements which is, if not 100%, is very close to the riba system. Then I don't want to go in the debate of maqasid and sharia. Well, it might be involving a little amount of doubtful elements of riba, but it fulfills the maqasid. And he also got his scholars to defend him, so I don't want to go in that debate. But as long as it is a riba, the hukum of Allah is there, and being a Muslim, I would like to see, I would rather die being poor than being punished in the hereafter. So we look for Islamic microfinance. So Islamic microfinance is similarly provide the same services such as the credit, savings, venture, equity, insurance, remittances on the micro scale through the use of Islamic financial instruments within the framework of the Sharia and Sharia compliance. So this Islamic microfinance represents only 1%. In today's microfinance schemes, on a global level, if you look at it, it's unfortunate that it's hardly 1%. That is the IFTI finding. As if 99% is still, and if you think that I'm the Dean and Director of the Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance, don't take me wrong that I'm openly and blindly following what the bankers and Islamic finance bankers industry is doing today. They are business, and incentive for business is always that, yes, they would like to see ROI, return on investments. So if there are people who have invested money, they would like to see the profits. They may not be necessarily involved into non-business activities where profit is not the incentive. So we could have both profit-based Islamic microfinance, that what we are all used to today, and all the institutions and universities which are teaching these Islamic finance products very extensively, and it's very, very attractive, I tell you. Even non-Muslims who have no care about riba and whatnot, they are very attractive because the return is very high. So they say, oh, what difference is it? If Muslims are our market, they want to avoid riba, but we still fulfill our profits even better than from the conventional system, we go for it. So murabaha, ijara, buy salam, buy istisna, buy istijar. Of course, there are some views of the scholars in different countries, different way, but it is very purely profit-based microfinance. I have no problem with that, but I'm looking for bigger picture. What happens to the majority? We have seen the figures that big chunk of people are left out, and Islam has a solution for that. Islam has prescribed the solution for that, and that has to come through the charity-based Islamic microfinance. You have to look at zakat. Alhamdulillah, I think I really, when I read and I listen my friend from Indonesia, I'm really very happy that Basnas, is much organized than our PPZ in Malaysia, because they feel that Indonesia perhaps need this part to be looked at, being biggest Muslim country in the world, 200 over million populations. So they are doing fantastic job, and I think thank you to our Indonesian chapters, ICIFE. They managed to bring the Basnas chair and person Prof Bambang to be the ICIFE advisors board. So he accepted it. We really appreciate his. So zakat, management of the zakat, I think is something wajib for all the rich people to pay certain percentage of the zakat. And I was surprised once listening the Prime Minister of India, who is a majority Hindu country, he says, doesn't cross my mind that Muslims, of course, I think after Indonesia, perhaps the largest number of the Muslim is in India, even though they are minority. I think the total population of Muslim in India is more than the total population of Pakistan. Yes, but country is big, majority is still not Hindus. So the Prime Minister says, I don't understand. When you Muslims and Islam, you say, is close to your chest, which prescribes you the zakat, and what makes me to feel sick when I see Muslim poor around? As if either the Muslims are not paying zakat, or if they are paying the zakat, there is some poor management, that Muslims still remain poor. So Islam has the solution for the rich people, that what you earn is not totally yours. There are a share of the poor people inside. Waqaf, again back to India. Many of you would not know, but let me tell you today. Taj Mahal, one of the 7 wonders of the world, is actually under Waqaf, an Waqaf board. Can you see that they attract how many millions tourists worldwide? And the income, nobody knows where does it go. There is a Waqaf board, which is very powerful board under the constitution of the country, but still the Muslims there remain poor. So there is some misappropriation and mismanagement, but the successful example, a lot more we see actually coming from Turkey and other places. So even last night, me and Prof, even very good successful example is in Indonesia itself. So this Waqaf, and of course this one is Qard Hasan. These are the charitable Islamic finance schemes that, now go back to how do we look at it. One of the examples I pick up, and the rest of the slides perhaps is going to help us, related to one of the OIC members, which is Pakistan. I think they try their best, but due to the absence of the empirical data and impact of those tools like Zakah, Awqaf, Qard Hasan and whatnot, Malaysia is trying also to have a Sadaqah house, and they just launched it last year. I have yet to see how and where are they moving later on. So this is very difficult to have okay. Now we have to see what is the socio-economic impact of this mechanism. So we need to look at it, providing and improving the impacts of the Islamic microfinance in Pakistan based on that. Then naturally have to have the policy recommendations towards promoting and enhancing the operational efficiency and effectiveness. I think those students of management, they know these 2 words are very, very crucial when we talk about management. So the incidence of poverty in Pakistan, I can tell you, is equally bad. This may impede the entrepreneurial development and may also aggravate the incidence of poverty if there is a poor management, etc. So in Pakistan, actually, we had the Islamic Microfinance, looked at it, proper management, proper control, proper distribution. So the proposition that Islamic microfinance reaches and helps the poor that live below poverty line must be proven, not just assumed. Sometimes we have a lot more hearsay, we assume. But when we talk about scientific inquiry, assumption need to be verified through empirical data. That's why those researchers, they develop the hypotheses and assumptions and etc. We tell them go to the ground, find out the details and prove it empirically. So it need not to be only assumed, rather need to be proven, and very difficult someone goes down to put their hand dusty and collect all the tedious job to prove it. So there was a study conducted with the help of students. The idea of the study was to assess the impact of using Islamic microfinance on the participants at the household level. As I mentioned to you, microfinance, the focus is more on the household level, which could be attributed like children education, households assets accumulation, dietary requirements, securities and whatnot. The biggest agenda in United Nations today, I think many of you know, is not the war, which is quite prevalent all over the world, is a food security. They are worried about the pace of industrialization taking place, and there is nobody who wants to go to the farming and wants to go to the plantations to grow the necessary foods, and then people might die of this famine and interpretations. So this is something to assess the impact of using microfinance on the participants at enterprise level. So two things. One is the household level, and these are social needs, and then economic needs, which are the enterprise level, which is talking about SMEs and etc. And finally, to assess the impact of using Islamic microfinance, which cuts across the religious, social and ethical level of the participants in that. So you see, this was the framework they developed. Here you talk about how many, about 15, 16 variables. Number one, talking about religious compliance, talking about social compliance, talking about basic needs and necessities, and then eventually these variables. So there were two institutions which were established, and I want to share with you these two institutions, Akhwat and Wasil Foundations, to handle this situation. And these would be the impact at the household level and also at the economic unit enterprise level. So that assessment was done. Now you see what happened to the one of them, Akhwat. They started actually in 2001 with the donation of just mere $105 US, 10,000 rupees equivalent. Loans given from credit pool are interest free, Qard-e Hasan, one of the instruments. Credit pool created through philanthropy and spirit of mafakatness. Be having the human heart rather than the corporate mindset. Activities centered around the mosque and for non-Muslims around the church, because these are the religious institutions within the society. Activities have been organized and try to have minimum cost of operation. The problem is sometimes in Malaysia, we did discover in 90s, the total amount collected for zakat, 55% just go to meet the expenses. Surprise. Crazy really. Only maybe 45% left for distributing to the people who are really the desperate and target group. So we must be also talking about efficiency and cost. So right now this is their statistics. For example, they got started with this with the 10,000 rupees only. Now they got 162 branches throughout the countries. Number of cities and towns they are covering is 116. Total benefiting families are around 300 over thousands. The loans utilized by male as well as female entrepreneurs. The Prof Yunus focus was basically more on the female entrepreneurs, because he found that females are more enterprising than the male. That's why whenever you have the audience sitting like that, he will look left and right. Where you see the females are more, so he said, thank you very much, I want to talk to these segments. More reliable. Because he saw that female in the household and the villages, they may not have, so what do? They grow the chicken, then they get the eggs and they sell it, they make money out of it, living, and some of them they also do small like textile, handicrafts and whatnot. So he finds they are more enterprising. And the male, you never know, they get more money, they will look more wives. So female, she will look for the family, she looks for children, looks for children's education, look for household, even she care the husband. So that is his focus. So that's why better to have both the data. And so males 198,000 and female 113 entrepreneurs. Amount distributed was this, almost how many? 4,000 over rupees, billion rupees. Now we got the percentage recovery. Now you see, recycle it. should not remain selfish. When you have served your needs, is a time to bring back that money so that, and today the big problem is this, active loans. These are the one and this is the total amount. This is Ahwal. What to talk about Wasil Foundation? This is relatively older and have one 1999 they established as a conventional microfinance. I think they bought Taubat afterwards, perhaps, and they become more Islamic microfinance scheme. They move into more Sharia compliance afterwards, and now they have this branches, number of districts, they are relatively growing up, total benefits of the families and all here, and they are going more for profit oriented. Previous was more charitable, this is more business, but both the examples are there. They are taking their products which are Ijara, Murabaha and Musharika, Mutanakisa, mode of financing, etc. Okay, the study area, I think you can look at it, the big cities in Pakistan, and then they have the programs there. The selected is basically 228 Wasil Foundation plus 259. So the total numbers, primary data through then interviews and all those kind of typical research methodology findings. What happens was that first thing, as I mentioned to you, the unit of studies are basically household and then enterprise level. So the household, the Islamic microfinance has a strong positive impact on the children education. Every parent's first concern after marriage, the children growing, what to talk about their quality education. Children. Okay. The second was a mixed result. Not so good, not so bad. But first was very good. That talks about on household housing, household asset accumulation, household food security. So there is a mixed indication. First one was very positive and a strong read. Second comes to the enterprise, has again very strong positive impact on the financial performance and the enterprise resource base of the program participants. Then Islamic microfinance has no impact on the income soothing effects of the program participants. So when it comes to the business, everybody becomes smart and very difficult to, and nothing wrong with that, changing the mindset. So positive impact has been found on religious basis. Why? Because when you have the food for stomach, even you can concentrate for ibadah. And all the usulul fiqh will tell you, if you have competing priority, you are hungry or you want to perform the salah, they say fill in your stomach first, then you perform the prayer. Otherwise you won't have the khushu in the salah. So even religiously they said, so when they have the tummy they are full, they are also increasing in terms of the offering prayers and also the religious rituals, recitation of the Quran and whatnot, and also finding the feedback that no difference has been quantified between the established clients and new clients with regard to involving the interest-based loans, maintaining hijab, reviewing this all social stigma. I mean, I wouldn't know whether this is a problem only over there, but also many other parts, the marriage and then social contract, dowry system, expenses involved in that, and also reduces the divorce rate. Now comes to the, it has also positive impact on the social behaviors of the established clients as involved more in social activities, treated people with respect, cares, neighbors, etc. So it tremendously improves on religious, social and ethical level. So social reformation also takes place. So this is what has been basically the 2 case studies in one of the YC countries. I don't want to bore you from the figures, studies have a lot more there, so forget about it. So thank you very much for your attention, and we stop here for maybe next session. Already we started late. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.